Buildings in complete isolation in the farthest corners of the earth. Many people aren't aware these buildings exist, and on this episode of Built a Billion, join us as we travel to the most remote buildings on Earth. Make sure you watch till the end, because you won't believe how off the radar the last building on this list is. Paranal Observatory Hotel. If you're a fan of James Bond, then you've seen the Paranal Observatory Hotel in the Quantum of Solace movie. But it's not really an evil villain lair. It's actually one of the most remote astronomical observatories in the world. The middle of nowhere location in the Chilean desert made it necessary to build a hotel to accommodate those working in the observatory. The nearest town of Popozo only has 259 people and is 24 miles to the south of the observatory. Paranal is the second largest optical infrared observatory in the world with 5 separate telescope rays. It offers one of the clearest views of the universe due to the lack of light pollution in the desert and the thin atmosphere that the altitude provides. The hotel even contains an artificial oasis, swimming pool, and a sauna. It's built into a naturally occurring depression in the ground from bricks. Sounds cool, but if you ever want to stay here, you'll have to switch career paths and become employed by the observatory. Lao Lao Resort. If you want a vacation as far away from civilization as possible, the Lao Lao Resort in Argentina is the place for you. Perched in the foothills of the Andes Mountains, it first opened in the 1940s to give wealthy travelers a place to rest in the wilderness, but it later burned down. Since then, it was rebuilt from concrete and stone and has undergone many renovations, and each of the 169 rooms have beautiful views of the surrounding lakes and mountains. There are many activities to do, including a private golf course and hiking trails. This hotel is so remote, you'll feel like the only human on the planet. If you love to hear about all of the mega projects in the world, please be sure to subscribe and leave a like. We can be your one-stop shop for everything mega projects. Now back to the video. Casa de Penedo. The original owner of the Casa de Penedo put 4 large boulders together to form the foundations, walls, and ceilings of this next house in northern Portugal. It was finished in 1974 and became the family's vacation home. The name Casa de Penedo means house of rock and has no electricity and none of the comforts a home should have. So, of course, the family realized that it was a bad idea to vacation in a big rock, and now it acts as a national monument and museum. Today, tourists are welcome to step inside and see photographs of the building's history. Solvay Hut. The 14,692-foot-tall peak of the Matterhorn is one of the highest in Europe. It was first successfully climbed in 1865 and quickly gained notoriety for its difficult routes. As many climbers began to take on the challenge, structures were built along the way to provide shelter for them. One of them is particularly remote, and it's called the Solvay Hut on the northeastern ridge of the mountain at an altitude of 13,133 feet. Constructed in 1917, it's the highest hut built by the Swiss Alpine Club with 10 beds and an emergency telephone. Getting the materials there to build it was a tough task in itself, which required building a cable from another hut to aid in lifting the huge planks. It's only used in case of emergency when weather conditions give climbers no choice but to find shelter. Even at 100 years old, the Solvay Hut still protects countless mountaineers who get bested by the weather conditions, and it's probably the most important structure on the Matterhorn. Catsky Pillar. On the western side of a country named Georgia lies a naturally formed limestone outcrop known as the Catsky Pillar. It's 138 feet high and has amazing views, but it's not for tours. On its peak sits a monastery and a church that has been there since the 9th century at least. The only way to reach the top used to be an iron ladder, but has now been deemed way too unsafe, so a rope ladder is used now instead. The complex at the top has a church dedicated to Maximus the Confessor, a burial vault, wine cellar, and 3 hermit cells. Only one man lives there these days, and he only comes down twice a week to get supplies. He spends his time in worship and restoring the ancient structures of one of the most remote buildings on Earth. Elidae Island. There's a house on an island in Iceland that is so far away from civilization that it's inspired conspiracy theories about who may live there. It's actually not even clear if anyone lives there. The island is called Elidae, is 11 acres, and is in the northeasternmost end of the Westpin Islands archipelago. Photos of the island clearly show a random white house sitting on one of the slopes with no signs of human life around it. The island has an official population of 0 and was probably used throughout history as a place for hunters to set up base while fishing and catching seals. Legend has it, there were 5 families that lived in that house over the course of 300 years and fed themselves with seafowl and cattle. In the 1930s, they were forced to leave as the isolation made it impossible to live modern lives. Now, the house is owned by a local hunting association where the hunters can live during their hunting season. They get there by boat from the mainland and use a zip line to get to the cabin itself. It does not have electricity or running water, however, so no one stays there too long. Halley 6 research stations. Due to Antarctica's freezing temperatures and very far location from other continents, there are very few structures in Antarctica to begin with. Several countries have outposts on the continent, and the most remote of them all is a British research center called Halley 6. Here, exact measurements of the Earth's atmosphere are made, and it's where the hole in the ozone layer was first identified in 1985. It's located on a moving ice sheet, so the structure can move its position to ensure its safety. Halley 6 is made up of 8 modules lifted up on hydraulic legs to keep them clear of high snow, and have retractable skis to pull them along the ice when necessary. These mobile features came in handy in 2017 when a large crack was discovered in the ice. If the ice were to break, the structure would separate from the main part of the shelf and drift off to sea. Due to these cracks caused by global warming, the Halley 6 only operates in the summer months now. If the building were to drift off in the winter, any rescue attempt to save it would be futile due to its remote location and treacherous weather conditions. What do you think about these remote locations on Earth? Let me know in the comments below. I'm interested to see whether anyone would ever want to travel to one of these remote buildings. I know I'm not too interested myself. But if you enjoyed this content, please hit the subscribe button and leave a like. We have plenty of videos here on the channel for you to binge watch, including the most expensive mega projects, the most impressive, or even ones that were never finished. So, go ahead and click a video on the screen to watch something you haven't seen. And thanks for visiting Built a Billion.